Did you all not hear me? Those of you on Zoom, was I muted by mistake? You just heard me now. You just heard me now.
This is Rivka. You were muted.
My apologies. I'm glad I noticed. So I just want to. So I'll back up just a drop. I want to say Roya was correct last week when she said that Sarah cried out 6 times when she saw that Avrohom was going to ritually slaughter Yitzchak. The Medrash does say that, and that's one of the reasons we blow shofar again on Rosh Hashanah. And I did want to say that I saw a moving interpretation from the Satmar Rebbe about why she died, is because she realized that nothing that happens to the patriarchs and matriarchs is just about them; it's about future generations. So she saw that if this is going to have to be the merit that the Jewish people had, that Avrohom was willing to sacrifice his son, that there's going to be tremendous sacrifice that the Jewish people are going to have to give, and that's the thing that pained her so much and caused her death. A very thought-provoking, powerful thought. Okay, this week is Parshat Toldot. For those who have the Parsha facts, it's in Chumash Bereshit, the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 19 through 28:9. It's found on page 124 in your handy art school. It has 106 verses. It doesn't have any commandments. And as we will see more about it. Did anyone get Parsha facts yet? No, I didn't give them out because I'm talking about it. I didn't give them out. I did? Okay, good. Everyone's good? Everyone get? Mm-hmm. We're good? Okay. So interesting, the Baal HaTurim says something. At the end of Parshas Chayesara, the end of last week's portion, it talks about the descendants of Yishmael, and that Yishmael died. Now, the Yishmael is where the Arabs are descendants of Yishmael. And the pasuk says, these were the years, I'll say it in English, it's on page 123. You don't have to look in it inside, but if you want to find it. So these are the years of Yishmael's life, 137 years, when he expired and died, and he was gathered with his people. They dwelt from Havilah to Shur, which is near Egypt, toward Assyria. Over all his brothers he dwelt. But the words in Hebrew don't say that. The words in Hebrew say, Al Pnei Kol Achiv Nafal, that on all of his brothers he fell. So again, Rashi talks about that it means in this context living, but the literal translation of the word is nafal, fell. And the Baal HaTurim says that when Yishmael will fall, the beginning of this week's portion, Eila Toldot Yitzchak will be born. The descendants of Yitzchak will flourish, and hopefully the Messiah will come. So very appropriate for the period of time we're living in. When Yishmael will fall, that's when the ultimate redemption will take place. And as the follow-up of the next verse is, these are the children of Yitzchak. Okay. Parsha begins with Yitzchak and Rivka not having children for many, many years. And each prayed to have children. Sorry. The papers are a little bit mixed up here. But I strengthened last night. So they were childless for 20 years. And they didn't give up. They kept on praying, which is an interesting idea. Why do they keep on praying? The Jeopardy music, if anyone can get me that, would be helpful.
Bad faith.
Bad faith that they might have kids. Bad faith that they might have kids. The power of prayer means that we don't know, and we'll talk about that in a few moments about what does that mean? Like, how does that work? But the power of prayer doesn't mean, it's not like a slot machine. You don't keep on putting quarters in if you don't get the soda out. You don't put money in the slot machine, right? You're not getting the money out. So what's going on? You're not going to keep on wasting money. But by prayer, it doesn't work that way, because we transform ourselves. And they had faith that the possibility would be that they would have children. So that's what they prayed for 20 years. So important to realize, bad things do happen to good people. And also the corollary of that means just because I am good doesn't mean I'm going to get what I want when I want it. My life won't necessarily be perfect. I remember reading about this great woman. She and her husband were very holy people, and they were very poor. And they lived in a hovel basement in a small little room. And the wife told her husband, we're so lucky, because after 120 years, when we're buried, we'll be pretty comfortable, because we're already living in the ground in a small place. Think about the rich guy who lives in a very fancy place, and he's going to have to adjust to living in this beautiful mansion, and for all the way that to be in a small tiny room on the ground. It's going to be a real adjustment for him. But for us, it won't be that big of an adjustment. No guarantees. Okay. Who was that? I don't remember who it was, but that's me and names. So, and we talked about it last week. Sarah's life was all good. She didn't have kids for who knows how long. She was abducted twice. A lot going on, but all was good because she used her time well. What are you looking for? Tissues? There's one on the box here next to some Israel. Yeah. And the power of prayer is you never give up. And it's a very, by the way, interesting balance that we're required to keep. And the balance is to be of the reality where we are in while having hope. And this really deserves a longer time to discuss, but I want to spend at least a minute on this to talk about that. What I mean by that is as follows. Many people want something very, very much, and they don't function because they don't have that thing. If only I had this, then fill in the blank. You fill in whatever you're looking for, what you really want. Mate, job, child, better place to live. Just fill in the blanks. Everybody has their own list, right? If only. So we have to live with the reality of, what does Hashem want me to do now? How am I supposed to do what I'm supposed to do now? But at the same time, pray and hope for the thing that I want. It's not a contradiction. Be real and hopeful at the same time. And that's a very important balance to have, because Yitzchak and Rivka function as the great people that they were, while still pining and hoping and praying for a child. And that's something we have to learn, to have that balance of doing both. Is this clear? Okay. Now, what happens with prayer? So we're going to give you two options. We get the fast answer and the slow answer. Each one has its pluses and each one has its minuses. The fast answer, I pray for something and boom, we get it. Last week, Eliezer's Parsha, he sets up a test, prays to Hashem, Rivka goes up, passes the test. Wow! Fantastic, right? Works great. The problem with that, it's easy to deny that it was God. because it happened so fast. The guy says, God, this parking space, I must have to get to this appointment, this very important appointment, please. Let me, if I find the parking spot, I'll give $100 to charity, please. Oh, I found the spot, God, never mind. Right? So when it happens fast, we forget sometimes God's hand in it. When it takes a while, then it's clearly from Hashem. But on the other hand, it's hard to maintain. Weakens our faith. We want to give up. It didn't happen yet. But that's not how Hashem works. Remember what I said? God is the ultimate CPA, celestial payback accountant. It's so cold. It's 71.
It's okay. I'm prepared with my jacket.
Okay. Okay. I made it a little warmer. Don't worry. So that's important to know. How does prayer work? You keep on nagging God enough? The answer is no. The goal is getting closer to God and relying on Him. Once in New Jersey, there was a power outage. It said, I have no power. And someone said, you're right. You don't have any power. God has all the power. Right? So does prayer work? Prayer works all the time. What do I mean by that? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. And sometimes the answer is not yet. But if we're sincere in our prayer and we transform ourselves by becoming closer to God through prayer, then that has a tremendous impact on ourselves and our relationship. And by the way, that's one of the reasons that the commentaries tell us why Rivka didn't have children right away, because God wants the prayers of the righteous. Very powerful, moving prayer was a woman in Israel that her daughter was kidnapped by Hamas, and she did many things. She did many mitzvahs. She had a public separating of the dough, Hafrashas challah, separating of the challah dough for Shabbos, and she's crying and tears are coming down her face, and she's saying, Hashem, I love you. Hashem, I love you. When her daughter is been kidnapped by Hamas. And miraculously, that was the one person so far that the Israelis had been able to free. Her daughter was the Israeli soldier that they freed. But the power of her prayer, when she was saying, she wasn't angry at God, she was saying just the opposite. God, I love you. Please bring me back my daughter. And it was with tremendous power and sincerity. It just was very, very powerful. So another reason why Rivka didn't have children is to break her from the past. Not break her in a negative sense. What I mean by that is she came from not such an illustrious family. If you recall last week, Pesuel, the father, tried to poison Eliezer. Lavan, as we're going to find out, is a problematic brother, trickster. So to make a break between her past and starting a new beginning for the Jewish people, that's another reason why she didn't have children right away. So to sort of make it a new beginning.
Was the time or the prayer? What's the thing that separated her from the past 20 years?
Okay,
Or the prayer?
good question. And the answer really is both, but neither. And what I mean by that is that by natural law, she couldn't have kids. So now she is, stepped away from the negative spiritual genetics of her family. Okay, but time and prayer are also part of it. It's also correct. Finally, thank God she becomes pregnant. But something odd is going on. She feels when she's walking by a place of Torah study, the baby wants to come out. She feels she's coming out when she goes near a place of idol worship, the baby's coming out. And she doesn't understand. She's confused about this.
Do you know she was having twins?
No, she's not. Because that would have been the easy answer. That would have been the easy answer. She did not know. Parenthetically, I will tell you what the oral tradition tells us is what were they fighting about? So first I have to say the joke. Why is Yaakov trying to get out? Because he didn't like his womb mate. What?
Being the firstborn.
No one was the firstborn yet, but it's still inside the womb. Okay. But the other thing is that the Medrash tells us that they were arguing about who would inherit which part of the world. And they came to an agreement. Esau said, I'll take this world, and Yaakov said, I'll take the world to come. Okay, so we're going to see how this is going to play itself out. This has actually some very strong ramifications, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So what did she do? She does not go to her OBGYN. She goes to a rabbi. Say, what's going on here? What's the spiritual aspect of my children here? That of my child here that wants to do both. I'm going to just say a side thing that we should be aware of, a food for thought idea, that sometimes people like having both parts of the world. They want to, be religious Jewish, do the Jewish stuff, but also want to do all the secular stuff as well. And that was a little bit upsetting for Rivka. Which way is he going? Does he have no direction? Does he have no priorities? That was upsetting to her too. But they answer her that there are two nations within you. And by the way, so again, it's very important, the importance of having a rabbi that you go to when you have questions, not only just about Jewish law, but about life choices and philosophy. So the answer she's given is there's going to be two great nations. One will be good, one will be evil. When one is up, the other one is down. And what ends up happening is we have Shlomo HaMelech who builds the temple, and Hadrian from Rome, which is a descendant of Esau, that destroys the temple. So there is this dynamic will play itself out in history. Now, what happens is the babies are born, and Yaakov wants to be first because he wants to be the firstborn. Why does he want to be the firstborn? Because initially, the firstborn was the ones who were supposed to work in the temple. But Esau is first, and he comes out red and hairy, and Yaakov is holding on to his foot because he was trying to pull him back in because he wanted to be first. And he holds on to the heel of Esau. So because Esau is hairy and looks like a grown man in a sense with the hair, so he's called Asu, he's Esau. And Yaakov, because he's holding on to the heel, is called Yaakov. Akev is a heel. And what's interesting is there's a very important lesson from here. And there's a very interesting, many years ago, Rabbi Grossman, he's a rabbi in Migdal Emek in Israel, fascinating person, very special rabbi. He actually had a name as the disco rabbi. What had happened was he lived in Jerusalem, he got married, he said, there are a lot of rabbis living in Jerusalem, I want to live in a place where there are no rabbis. And he moved to Migdal Emek, which was a place that had a lot of crime and this and that. And he opened up shop and nobody came. So he asked everybody, where's everybody? He says, they're in the disco. So he went to the disco. He says, what are you doing here, Rabbi? I want to teach Torah. In the disco, that's where you guys are, And he transformed this town in such an unbelievable way. I have an article from him. I don't know if I have enough copies. If not, I'll make more copies for next week. Amazing, amazing person. Those of you who are on Zoom, you can call the office and ask them to send you the article.
There's a book about him, right?
Yes, there's a book about him. He's just an amazing person. What he's done in Migdal Emek, Migdal Or is the name of his organization.
So what's the name of the rabbi again?
Rabbi Grossman from Migdal Or. And he's transformed the town and transformed people's lives. Just an amazing, amazing person. So I was in the yeshiva in upstate New York, and I heard that he was speaking at a convention nearby. And I decided to go just to see if I could see him. So I went to the hotel, and I went over to him and said, Shalom Aleichem, said hello to him. I was a, teenage yeshiva bacher. And I expected a very, I don't know, the look didn't have what I expected. I expected like a very debonair, powerful, charismatic person. And that's not what I saw. What I felt from him was just his love and acceptance of everybody. And he said a very beautiful thought related to this week's Parsha. He said, Yaakov holds on to the heel of Esau. What's it doing? Doesn't accomplish anything. But if the effort isn't sincere, then there could be a time where it's going to work out anyway, which we're going to see later on in the Parsha. And it's just, a fascinating idea. And he said, ours is to do sincere effort. The rest is up to Hashem. And he talks, and the truth of the matter is, we celebrate examples of that. We talk about Avrohom doing Hachnasas Orachim, having guests. We make a big deal out about it. He was the third day of having his circumcision. He had guests. Who were the guests? They were angels. They didn't need any food. But he gets credit for it anyway. The binding of Yitzchak. Yitzchak wasn't slaughtered at the end, but they get credit anyway. Because it's the sincere effort that really what really counts.
Question, Rabbi.
Yes, please.
Where did the disco come from? How did it end up in Israel?
I'm not sure what you're asking. Any type of secular thing that's in the world lands up everywhere in the world. I don't know if you know, not everybody in Israel is religious. I don't know if you know that. You know that?
Yes. But
What?
disco, isn't that?
time they had a disco?
Yeah.
Not in the times of Avrohom, in the times of Rabbi Grossman. He's still alive.
But did disco come from America?
Of course. Yeah, from America, Europe. Yeah. No, not the Rabbi Grossman. He's still alive, thank God. He should live and be well. He's not that old. Now, he wasn't in the times of Avrohom.
But it was like in the 70s, 80s.
Yes, it was in the 70s and the 80s. It's an old story. That's true, but
Rabbi Czapnik, is this the Rabbi Grossman that has a long white beard?
Yes, he does have a long white beard.
Okay,
He
because
wasn't
I've
born
seen
that way, but he wasn't born that way, but he does have it now. Yes,
Okay, and he's Israeli, yeah?
yes, he is very
Okay,
special.
okay, because there's beautiful so many videos of him speaking to the soldiers that's been going
Correct.
around.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Okay.
He's just an amazing, amazing person. Just
Yeah, he
beautiful.
has the Hadras Panim that comes through even on the camera. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is correct. That is yes.
So Rabbi Grossman, what he said was that Yaakov's trying to hold on to Esau's heel, that effort was
Will lead to something possible to come out,
Okay.
which we're going to see. So the point is that sincere effort does count, even if it doesn't in the end come out the way we think. We just have to try. That's the goal. So Yaakov and Esav were born, and until age 13, they seem to be pretty much the same. But when 13 comes, Yaakov gets more into Torah study, and Esav is hunting and out in the field, and he tricks his father, comes across being very righteous to his father. How do you tithe salt? How do you give 10% of salt? You're not required to give 10% of salt. You're only required to give 10% of things that grow, or of your money. But he's so he tricks his father, and his father does not rebuke him enough. But Rivka, the mother, she knows what's going on. She knows the real score, that Yaakov is the righteous one and Rivka is not. Now, what's very important we have to go to a side point is there such a thing as free will? Do we have free will? It seems like Esav and Yaakov were destined for the roles that they had. And the answer is no. Even Esav had free will as well. as a matter of fact, and that's one of the interpretations of why Yitzchak loved Esav, Esav's potential was greater. Because had he defeated his evil inclination, he would have been greater than Yaakov. Isn't that pretty wild stuff? But he had free choice. He had a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious in terms of physics, you mentioned that Yitzchak did not rebuke him like
Enough, yeah.
enough. In terms of physics, what can parents get from that? Like sometimes, you don't know if we should correct the kids more or correct the kids less.
It's a great question. It's a great question. And I can't give you a black and white rule of thumb. But it's important to know today, as a general rule, parents are afraid to rebuke their kids. They have to be my friend, and that's just not true. I mean, when I was raising my kids, I told them, I'm not here for you to like me. I'm here to put you on the straight and narrow, and hopefully you'll like me too. But that's not the goal. The goal is to get to do the right thing. And it's a very difficult balance, and it really depends on the child and on the circumstance. I remember meeting one of my children's Rabbi in high school, and he asked me, "Oh, where was your son today in yeshiva?" I said, "What do you mean? He was in yeshiva?" He says, "No, he wasn't." Said, "I'll find out where he was." And he said, "No, he's a good kid, and if he took a day off, it's okay." So I accept, which is not my style, because my style would have been, what's going on here? But he told me that, and I accepted that, and I said, "Great." And I never mentioned it until years later, and it's very funny because when I mentioned it, that rabbi who taught him unfortunately passed away, and I mentioned that to the family, to say that he had a good, and my daughter heard this and said, "Where was he that day?" 20 years later, she's still, "Oh, how come he got away?" He played hooky. Yes, Phyllis.
So does that Esau didn't turn out right, but does he still get credit for honoring his father and mother?
Yes, we're going to get to that. Yes, Esav gets tremendous credit for that, even though his motivation was not pure and not holy. But Esav does get credit for honoring his father very, very much. And he does get credit for that. And we have to sort of counter that. Yeah. Very good.
I'm sorry, but the current Ishmaelites, the Arabic nation.
Yishmael is a separate issue. Because though there was a connection, Esav eventually marries one of the Yishmael's daughters, whatever. But at this, from a historical point of view, we'll look at it as a separate problem. Unfortunately, yeah. But your question is a very good one, and I think it really depends on the child and the age, obviously, also, and what the child's issues are, and what the mistake that the child did. Sometimes you have to overlook. Sometimes you have to say something. And it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. So it's and there's no perfect recipe. Parents have no perfect recipe. Sometimes we over criticize, sometimes we under criticize. It depends, but you do the best you can, and you daven for Siyata D'Shmaya, for divine help, and you get advice from people that have experience. That's all. Yeah, right.
I'm a little confused. I don't understand. We pray to God of Avrohom, God of Isaac, and God of
Yaakov, yeah.
Yaakov. And Isaac is the symbol of knowledge and chokhmah, right?
No, the Yaakov is Torah. Yaakov is Torah. Yitzchak is strength.
Strength?
Yes, Gevura, strength.
Gevura.
Yeah.
So with that's a symbol. Why wouldn't he not know his own son and his nature?
Well, first of all,
loving him and giving him so much. so much power or.
He didn't give him power, but first of all, Yitzchak was blind. Number one, physically blind. Later on, we're going to see he was blind. And second of all, his hope was, I mean, there are different interpretations, but his hope was that he would come around and do the right thing. There was actually a role, which we're going to talk about maybe a little bit later. There was a role for Esav and Yaakov to work together in a team effort, which we'll talk about soon. But the Torah is very real. It doesn't expect perfection, and everybody's going to be happy and perfect and wonderful. No, it's real. They're real issues. And Yitzchak, didn't have a complete grasp about how wicked Esav was. And again, part of it was Esav's conniving, and he showed tremendous respect to his father, and partially because he was happy to be on this world, so he could enjoy the luxuries of this world. But yet, Rivka knew he was righteous. Okay, grandfather Avrohom passes away, as we had in last week's portion, and Yaakov is making a lentil soup. Why lentil soup? Because lentil soup doesn't have an opening. He was preparing a food for a mourner. Our custom today is not lentil soup. Usually, it's a round bread. Like there's no opening because a mourner feels that he can't express himself properly and fully. So he's preparing it, and Esav had just come back from murdering and doing a bunch of other things, and he says, "Oh, I'm starving, Yaakov. Pour the stuff down my throat." And Yaakov says, "Sell me your birthright. I'll make a deal." And Esav says, "What do I need the birthright for? I don't need it. I'm living for the here and now. World to come, future, not for me. I'm looking for the here and now." And he sells it to him. And Yaakov gives him to eat and to drink. And he gives him bread. Why is he just wanted the lentils. Why is he giving him more? So we had an answer 2 weeks ago. Maybe somebody remembers that answer, and I'll give you a different one.
So the good one, the holy ones, they promise a little and they give a lot.
Good. That's one answer. Very good. The righteous say a little and give a lot. The other thing is, if he's starving as he's complaining, my pre-1A kids, they come in from snack time. Rabbi, when's lunch? You just had snack. Yeah, but I want to know when lunch is. Okay. But maybe he was starving, and then under duress he agreed to sell it. So Yaakov first gave him bread. So this way now he's satiated. So now if he wants to renege on the deal, no, I want the birthright. He still has the ability to renege on the birthright, but he doesn't. And there's an interesting language that is implied in the verse. It's not the real meaning, but it's a nice way of demonstrating. So it says, and Yaakov gave Esav bread and the lentil soup. So again, he had the food. He ate, he drank, got up, left, and Esav spurned the birthright. So what's taught to kids that has a sweetness to it is he ate without washing. He drank without making a blessing. He got up without making the after blessing, and left without kissing the mezuzah. So it's like he failed in every area, and he left, and that's it.
Rabbi, could I ask a question?
You just
Michelle.
did. It's another one.
So what did Esav think that the birthright was at this? I mean, the rabbi might have said it, but I might have missed it. Like, what did he think it was that it, wasn't anything to do with this world? Like a birthright is kind of like, oh, you get the a bigger portion, or so why did the rabbi say it already and I missed it?
No, I didn't. No, the birthright was, from Yaakov's perspective, was to be able to work in the temple, and Esav wasn't interested in that.
So where was that coming from, though? Where was that definition, or what it was?
I think
What-
Yaakov was clear about that initially. He was clear that he wanted to be, and Asa was saying, "I'm not interested. I don't want to work in the temple. If I do things wrong in the temple, I can get killed. It's not for me. And the future, I'm not dealing with the future now." Now we're going to see that Asa is going to find out that it's connected to this world as well. But
Right, okay, so that definition or quote unquote definition wasn't established yet, like what it entails completely.
correct. But even but we're going to talk about it more. But
Okay.
that's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The selling of the birthright.
Yes.
Is that, we say mas avosim alabanim, right?
Yes.
The fathers, the kids, right?
Right.
So we do the same thing, sell the, like, what's this concept, sell the birthright, like?
No, you don't have the concept today. But what you do have,
Then,
if
it's like.
it's my there was a Kohen who was a non-Orthodox rabbi, and he officiated at funerals. Now, by Jewish law, a Kohen, a priest, going back a little bit, it used to be that the firstborn was supposed to be the one who works in the Beis Hamikdash because of the sin of the golden calf, which is another story for another time. We're going to learn about it in a few months. The priests got it, the Kohanim got it from the tribe of Levi. So this Kohen was a non-Orthodox rabbi, and he performed funerals. And someone said to him, "Hey, you're a Kohen, you can't be in a cemetery." So he said, "Well, I resigned from the kahuna. I gave up my kahuna." So my brother said, blessed memory, "Okay, I'm picking up his option." It doesn't work that way. You can't really do that. But there's a very important lesson that is relevant for us today, and that is, don't sell your Judaism for a pot of beans. And unfortunately, many people do that.
What does it mean?
What it means is that they don't take their Judaism seriously. A lot of bar mitzvahs, the joke is a lot of bar mitzvahs in the non-Orthodox setting are more bar than mitzvah, and they hire professional dancers to come be at the wedding. And then the non-Jewish friends who come want to have, I want to have a bar mitzvah too. I want to have a party like that. And it's sad, but that's not, non-kosher, we're not up to that part yet. Just the question is what the atmosphere is all about. And again, a lot of people don't know better, but I'm just saying that's the important lesson for us. But no, you can't buy and sell birthright and all that today. That doesn't work that way. Correct. So the Parsha continues, and Yitzchak goes to get food from the Philistines. The Philistines, by the way, have nothing to do with the Palestinians, just to let you know. Palestinians is a more recent name. In any event, and again, he says, the brother and sister, but Avimelech, the king, distinguishes the truth, and he lets them stay there, but Yitzchak stays until he realizes that they're jealous of him because he's being very successful. So he is careful not to stay around, and this is an important lesson for us. We shouldn't flaunt our wealth or the things we have. And the Jewish people, again, unfortunately, we've been invited to many countries and kicked out of many countries because of the economic benefits we bring. All right, Yitzchak is blind, and he calls his son Esav, and thinking he is the firstborn, he wants to give him a blessing. And Esav says, "Great!" He's very happy to have the firstborn blessing. And he goes to go hunting, and the Almighty makes it that all of a sudden he's having a hard time capturing the animals. They capture the animals, they run away, and something's going on. And this delays him a lot. And Rivka hears the blessing and tells Yaakov, you got to go in there and get the blessings. And Yaakov doesn't want to. He's going to see it's not me. I'm not Esav. I want a blessing. He's going to curse me. And Rivka says, it's on me. And she takes animal skin put on with fur on his neck, on his hand. And she prepares the food like he likes it, because Yaakov doesn't know how to do it. And he brings it in, and he is disguising himself as Esav. Again, this was not a plan that he wanted to do, but his mother Rivka insisted. Yeah.
But if he had already bought the birthright, why did he have to then, why couldn't he just say to his father that he had and do it that way?
It's an excellent question, and the question becomes even as strong. I'm going to make the question even stronger, and I don't have a great answer for you. Why didn't Rivka just tell him? Right? But Rivka didn't want to tell him. He was very set in what he thought would be. And again, as I mentioned before, Yitzchak did see the greater potential in Esau, which is in what?
Who was set on doing that?
Yitzchak always thought Yaakov that Esau was the more righteous one. And as I said before, the idea that Esau had the greater potential because he had a greater evil inclination, had he conquered that would have been. So what ends up happening is Yaakov talks with tremendous respect, and the voice, and Yitzchak says, "Come here, let me," and he feels him, and he says, "Hakol, kol Yaakov." The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. So literally, what it means is, it sounds like Yaakov, and the way he's talking sounds refined, but the hands feel like Esau. But it's really saying something much deeper as well. And it's telling us the power of what the Jewish people have. Hakol kol Yaakov. The voice, our power is our voice. Our voice of what? Torah and prayer. And the hands are the hands of Esau. And that's why, by the way, today, especially now, a lot of the secular Israeli soldiers turn to the religious people and say, "Pray, we need your prayers." And how true it is. And we always are increasing prayers for them, because they understand that, yes, you have to have people that can fight as well. We're not on the level to just sit and not fight, but the voice is the voice of Jacob. The power of prayer is very, very important. And that's where our strength is. Just as an aside, some of you may remember somebody named Cassius Clay, who became known as Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest fighters in American history, boxers. And I saw him many years later at the airport. And my guess was, I don't know, that maybe he was in the ring too much times and he got hit. And he ended up being very weak, very feeble. He had, I think he had Parkinson's. I don't know what he had. I don't remember what it was.
Parkinson's.
What? It was Parkinson's, yeah. And I feel badly, he was the top of the world. He was famous for "I am the greatest," and not exactly how things ended up for him, because the strength is the strength of the hands are the hands of Esau. When the hands are weak, that's it. But Yaakov, our strength is not in the physical, it's in the spiritual, and that's why that dimension has to be a very, very important part of what we do. So he gets a blessing. Now, what would you expect the blessing of the firstborn to be? Write your own blessing. What do you think it would be? Be holy, learn greatly, be a role model in the world. And he, by the way, the fragrance that when Yaakov came in, the fragrance of the Garden of Eden was with him. So we're talking about unbelievable things. And he gave him a blessing. May God give you all the dew of the heavens and the fatness of the earth and abundant grain and wine. People will serve you and regimes will prostrate themselves to you. Be a lord to your kinsmen, and your mother's sons will prostrate themselves to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you. What part of the world does that sound like? This world or the world to come? very much this world. So what's going on here? So we'll explain that in a little bit. Yaakov leaves, and Esav finally comes in, and Yitzchak says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm your firstborn. I'm Esav." And Yitzchak is very much taken aback, but when Esav heard this, he's very upset. And he says, "Bless me too." He says, "Your brother came with cleverness and took your blessing." And he said, "Because his name is called Yaakov, they outwitted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now he took away my blessing." And now Yitzchak is hearing something very powerful. What's he hearing? That Yaakov got the birthright, which means that he's deserving of it. Now, it's very interesting that Esav is looked upon as being the victim here, when in fact he's not. He made his life choices of how to live, and these are the consequences of it. And Yaakov is the reluctant hero. He didn't. And Esav wants to murder Yaakov. He's out to get him. Rivka understands this and decides that we have to send Yaakov away, but doesn't want to tell Yitzchak that Esav is gunning for Yaakov. So he says, "I don't want him to marry one of the locals. Let him go someplace else." And Yitzchak tells Yaakov, "Go to Lavan, your uncle, your mother's brother, and marry one of his daughters." And Yitzchak gets out of town before sundown so that Esav can't be gunning for him.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
What is the birthright, other than the blessing? What's involved in the actual birthright? Because
Well, it means that you're the oldest, and that means that, as I mentioned, that in those days it was supposed to be those are the ones who are supposed to work in the temple. It's a higher level, you know.
it's not about, what they're gonna get a piece of property. and-
It halachically now that's what it has some relevance, but at that time it was about the future. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed so when he came back, how did he realize? Or
He asks, he comes and says, "Okay, Yaakov, Yitzchak, I'm ready for my bracha." It says,
I forgot that,
Yitzchak says, "Who are you?" "What do you mean? I'm Esav."
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
He told him he's gonna get the blessing.
Mhm.
Did
So
he know what the blessing was going to be?
he did not know, but he could have assumed that it was a blessing of good stuff. Now the question is, why does Yaakov need that blessing if he's the one who's supposed to get the world to come? And how could things have worked out differently? So for this, I'm going to give you an interesting halachic question. Let's say a man has 5 fields. And someone's interested in buying field number 1. Oh. Let me move the screen so you see what I drew on the board. I don't know if you can see it or not. Can you see it? Yeah? Not so well. Okay.
Not really.
It's okay. It's all right. Oh, that's
That
good.
See now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So let's say somebody wants to buy field number 1. And the owner sells him the field. And the man says, okay, and they come up with a price, he pays him, field number 1 is yours. But he says, I don't give you permission to go into my field to get to it. What's Jewish law say? Jewish law says that though it is correct, the owner of, we'll give him 2 names, Reuven and Shimon, just for fun. Reuven owns fields 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shimon comes and buys field number 1, and Reuven says, well, I'm giving you, it's your field, but figure out how to get to it, take a helicopter, do whatever you want, but I'm not giving you access. The halacha is that Reuven is required to give him access, even though he didn't buy the access. Is everybody with me? So, somewhere along the way, there has to be a path for Shimon to be able to get access to his field. Everybody with me so far? Okay.
Rabbi Czapnik,
So-
what type of halachic what's the language used in the Gemara to describe that sort of transaction?
I don't recall. I'd have to look into it. I don't remember.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about. It's like not a mikshal, but it's not not a legal transaction really.
No, it's a legal transaction. He sold him the field. It does belong
But he
to
just
him.
has okay.
But what he has to do is he has to give him access.
Can he charge for the easement?
No, it's a good question. They can't charge him because you can't sell the field and give it to him if he's not giving him access, you know? So now let's see how this is relevant to what we're talking about here. Esau is supposed to be this world, and Yaakov is supposed to be the world to come. Now,
You need a way to get to the world to come, so this is the path.
you need a way in this world to get to the world to come. You know, there's a joke that's said about someone asked an Israeli general, could you forgive the terrorists for the things that they've done? And the general said, that's for God to do. My job as a general is to make sure that the terrorist meets God earlier. You know? So you have to have the access, and technically that's what this is a beautiful insight. That's technically that's what Esav's role could have been. And I'm going to jump ahead to something we're going to learn about in a few weeks. There were 2 brothers, children of Yaakov, named Yisachar and Zevulun, and they had this deal. Zevulun was a merchant, and Yisachar was the one who studied Torah. And Zevulun provided for all of the needs of Yisachar, and Yisachar would share half of his learning with Zevulun. And they had that kind of arrangement. There are actually people who, by the way, do that kind of arrangement today, believe it or not. Had Esav said, yes, I'm going to accomplish in this world and give you everything you need, because you need the physical world. You need money to pay for the electricity at JLE, to pay the mortgage, to pay this, to pay the loan, to pay this, to pay that. You need the physical world to be able to function, right? And therefore, that could have been the mutual relationship that Esav and Yaakov had. But Esav says, no, I want everything for myself. I'm not interested. And since he wanted everything for himself and wasn't interested in helping Yaakov in the pathway to get to the world to come, now Yaakov gets the blessing of this world. So he's able to do both. Because Esav, in a sense, cut himself out of the deal. It's a very beautiful, beautiful way of understanding this. And what ends up happening is Yaakov leaves, and Esav has children, and some of the offspring will be the future. He marries the daughter of Yishmael, and ultimately Yaakov flees to go to Lavan. And that's a sort of mid-story here, as the story will continue in a different way. But this is actually descendants of Esav include Amalek and Haman. In the Purim story, all of these are descendants of Esav. And Esav's grudge is going to be a long grudge. And interestingly enough, I'll conclude with this, and maybe I'll show it to you, be able to see it. If you remember, we said that one of the descendants of Esav was the last of the 4 exiles the Jewish people had, Rome. Edom is Rome. Now, Italy is known as what on the map? The boot. So, get a better picture of it. You'll see, I'll hold it up on the screen here closely so you can see it first. You have Rome is the boot, and down here is Israel. So the land of Israel is Yaakov holding on to the foot, the heel of Esau. All right, very interesting. That physically in the world, it works out that well as well. Everyone see it on Zoom?
Yes.
Edom is a descendant of, as a matter of fact, even in the Parsha, he's called Edom because he liked the red beans, and he was red when he was born. And Edom is the nation of Rome. That's where it comes from. So, dramatic confrontation between Yaakov and Esav that unfortunately plays itself out in history. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
Is America Rome? Like,
America is part of the West, and Rome is it's all part of it. And unfortunately, you look at the world, and here on La Brea, they're tearing down the signs too of the hostages. You know what I'm saying? I have to tell my secretary to put it back up again, one in front of Jaylee. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, it's just like we needed like Yaakov needed access. We need access to Hamas. So
Right.
it's just the same idea.
We get it happily and healthily. Go ahead. What's your question?
it's like premature, but like, how does Ishmael? Because I was always in my that Esav and Ishmael's kind of like on one line somehow.
They are connected. Like I said, in the Parsha, it has that Esav married Yishmael's daughter. So there is a connection there. But Yishmael is looked upon as a little bit of a side issue. It's just like its own problem. And what we said at the beginning of the class, for those that didn't hear, the end of last week's portion talks about Yishmael falling and then Yitzchak being born. That the Baal Turim says that when Yishmael falls, we should come out, and the final redemption should happen soon in our days.
What does the name Yitzchak have to do with what says
Because it's a play on the word of trickery, of tricking me. Yeah, that's really why he was named it. But Esav is sort of turning it around to say it means trick. Bracha, you're. I hear voices in the back. You want to say something, or you're on, or you're. Should I mute you? Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
No, just thanking you for.
I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Rachel, what are you saying?
Yes, thank you for this morning. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. How are you doing? Okay in Israel? Everything okay?
Thank you so much, Rabbi Czapnik.
You're welcome, Rachel. You okay?
Yeah, I'm in Jerusalem, so it's quiet here. No rockets.
Okay, Hashem should continue to help. Everyone should be safe.
Amen.
Amen.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Go ahead, David. You're on.
If Rome or a dome or whatever it represents is still part of our relationship, we have a long history.
Yeah, we're still in that exile.
So what does that mean
exile.
So what does this mean about our relationship? Does it tell how we're supposed to relate, or how we're connected, or what we should be connected or not connected?
Look, you're asking a very good question. Many people till recently felt very comfortable in the United States. This isn't exile. This is geschmack. We can do whatever we want. We have a sign outside Jewish Learning Exchange. But you know what? Today we have a guard outside JLE. So we're in exile. And it's a reminder for us that we are in exile. It's not so simple. So we're still in exile, and we have to remember that. That's part of what this is all about, I think, to remind us that we're still in exile.
So we have a challenge here, just like they have a challenge in Israel. You're saying it's a different.
I'm not saying it's the same challenge, but yes, sure, we have challenges here, definitely. And realizing, you have to understand, there's somebody I know in Philadelphia who approached a very wealthy, not religious man to help build. They wanted to build a building for a yeshiva, and he says, "Look, I'm really sorry, I have my other priorities." And he used to give every year, I don't know if it was Penn State or one of the universities there, a tremendous amount of money. The rich man called up this rabbi and said, I'm rethinking my priorities. Come make a meeting with me. Maybe I could help you with your yeshiva. Because, supporting millions of dollars to these institutions of supposed higher education, universities, and look at the result. The anti-Semitism is like blooming. And I mentioned on Shabbos, the baseball team had to change its name because of microaggressions. Indians, it's making fun of Indians, it's no good. And what happened to all that sensitivity of the microaggressions? It's totally out the garbage. It means nothing, So it's a wake-up call for us. And a lot of even secular Jews are understanding that, we thought this would be the place where everything would be great and wonderful, but it's not as simple as that. And that's it's unfortunate, but there's a positive aspect of that. And we need to understand that yes, we have to be grateful to the United States for the good that they've done for us, and the allowance that we have to be able to be Jewish. But at the same time, we're still in exile. We need to remember that.
It's kind of sad when the leader, the leading universities, the ones that get respect all over the world, Jews felt very much at home there. Like the head of Harvard was a Jewish man.
But I'm saying that there's a silver lining in that, because I have secular relatives that are reeling. I mean, they were very much progressive and like what? What happened to my progressive friends? And
it seems crazy, like a topsy-turvy world all of a sudden.
Yeah. But it's real. We have to.
And a lot of people, I heard a lot of alumni are not going to give money to their where they graduated from.
Trust me, they don't need the money. That's the truth.
No, they have so much, but they don't seem to care. Their Jewish alumni are feeling that offended. You know what I mean? Upset.
Like I said, it's a lesson that we can learn from, and hopefully it wakes people up to be more connected to their Judaism.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Please, Letty, go ahead.
Who did you say had the smell of the Garden of Eden?
When Yaakov walked in, Yitzchak smelled it on him, that he had the smell of Eden.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. When Yaakov walked in, he had it.
What does that mean, that he had the smell of the Garden of Eden?
It's not a perfume you can buy in the store, David.
You sure?
I can't find it at Bloomingdale's, Rabbi.
What?
I can't find it at Bloomingdale's.
You cannot get it at Bloomingdale's. It has to do with spiritual level. It's not Chanel 25, you know what I'm saying? All right, have a great week, everybody. We should pray and have everybody in mind that we should hear good news around the world.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Take it, David. Bracha.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Elisheva.
Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you. You too, Rabbi.
Welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Take care.